Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar all about how to research keywords. I'm going to start by introducing myself. I know most of the people who are here right now know my story. And for those of you who are watching this video, you may or may not have any idea who I am, what I do, how I came across this. I am a content marketer and SEO strategist. I like to combine those two to give the content that I create for my clients the best chance it has of actually being effective, because we can create content all day long, but if it's not helping your bottom line, then what's the point? So I started out, ever since I was a kid, I always loved writing, always wanted to be a writer. When I grew up, was told writers don't make any money and I should choose a more practical career. So grew up and went to college for English and psychology, which turned out to be the perfect degree for what I do. Had no clue this was an option, had no clue this was something that I was studying for. Thought I wanted to work in publishing because I figured if I couldn't make a living making or writing books, maybe I could make a living making books. Well, I graduated in 2009, right after the job market crashed. So there were no jobs to be had in publishing or really anywhere else. So answered phones for a few years, ended up between jobs at one point. My roommate at the time, her dad, who was an attorney, was awesome and offered to give me stuff to do around his office until I got back on my feet. And one of the things he needed was someone to write blog posts for his law firm. And he knew I had a strong writing background. So he offered me the gig. And I was like, what? I can get paid to write? Seriously? Yeah, sign me up. So I jumped at that chance, started writing blog posts for him, was really successful for him. Definitely helped his bottom line. Then started writing for an associate of his and for some friends of mine, and it just kept growing from there. And here we are. And I think if you had told me when I started out that I would need to learn SEO in order to be successful at what I do, I would have been too intimidated to even try. I would have been like, okay, never mind. I'll just go back to answering phones because that sounds really scary. Never thought of myself as a data person or an analytical person, but I just kind of fell into it at some point. Someone, I think, was just for funsies doing a little bit of keyword research for me, and they took a screenshot and sent it to me. And that's it. I was hooked. I was like, wait, really? People are looking for this word, but not that word, even though they basically mean the same thing. And what there's this SEO difficulty thing. Like, what does that mean? And I totally fell down the SEO rabbit hole. Never really found my way back out. I've been stuck in the SEO rabbit hole ever since. And much to my surprise, I found that it's actually it's a lot easier than people think. So that's why I like to do these webinars. It's why I wrote my book, which is behind me for those of you who have not already grabbed a copy. I know some of you here have. It's called Content Marketing Made Easy because I was kind of sick of hearing people say that SEO is too complicated or too hard or this, that, or the other thing. And it's really not. Once you understand the basics, it's really not that complicated. It's just a lot of people are like me when I was starting out and they go, it's scary, run away. I'll go do my other thing instead. So we are here to talk about keywords. There are a lot of aspects of SEO. I do like to break it down into one aspect per webinar because we can spend a lot of time talking all about SEO. So today is all about keywords because at the end of the day, that's how Google figures out which searches to match you with, right? There are a lot of elements that Google uses to determine if you're a quality website, if you are worthy of their users' time and attention. But it doesn't matter if you're high quality, if you're ranking for the wrong keywords. So that's why we're here to learn about how to research keywords. I do want to stress, I know ChatGPT is the fun new thing and everyone is playing with it and using it for all different kinds of things. I have been rather alarmed lately to see that people are using ChatGPT for keyword research, which is so not what ChatGPT was designed for. It is a chat function. It it scans the internet for information and content that other people have already created and just regurgitates that for you. So if you ask it for a bunch of keywords, it can tell you what words people are using. It will not tell you if anyone is searching for those words. It will not tell you if everyone is using that word. I think that's probably one of the biggest problems with ChatGPT is it's most likely to give you stuff that everyone is already using. So you have no chance of showing up for those keywords because it's just way too competitive. So I am going to show you my favorite keyword research tool. It is SERPstat, and I'm just going to go ahead and start screen sharing. So you can see what I am talking about. All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes? No? Yes, okay, thank you, Regina. All right, so Regina, since you're unmuted, do you want to throw out a keyword that we can play around with?
Okay, let's search cooking classes.
Cooking classes, okay. All right, so over here, we've got volume, right? That's what everyone wants to know is how many people are searching for this particular keyword. What that number means is the average number of people searching per month. So that's not a total search number. That is an average monthly search. It could be less some months, it could be more other months, but that is on average how many searches that is getting per month. And if you go down here, you can see the keywords trends. This will show you interest over time. So this is it. I assume here we are, right? 2023. This is where it's at. But in the past, it's been even more popular. It went all the way up here. Back, that was sometime last year. So, and it's not a huge change. Sometimes with certain keywords, you'll see like huge spikes over time, especially like seasonal keywords. You know, right now we have Easter coming up, so I can imagine Easter bunny would be something that comes up a lot right now. And in the middle of December, probably not so much. So this is also something to look at if you are researching a keyword and it has a lot of searches now. That's great, but is it on the downtrend? Is it on the uptrend? Are more people searching for it lately? Are more people searching for it this time of year? Maybe not so much next month or the month after. So this is something to look at. PPC competition and CPC are things that I don't really worry about because those are for if you're doing ads. So I'll come back to those. The number I really look at is over here, keyword difficulty. This is actually not too bad, 27 out of 100. So 100 would mean everyone is using this word in all of their content. You have no chance of ranking for this keyword. 1 is no one is using this keyword. You can absolutely rank for it right away because no one else is using it. So there's always a balance between keyword difficulty and volume. So this turns out to be a really good keyword because you've got a really heavy volume and a solid keyword difficulty. That's a nice low score. You definitely want to keep your keyword difficulty below 50 for sure. I like to keep it below like 30, which is where this is at. This one, maybe we can do some other research keywords so that I can show you how this shows up differently. This is kind of like an orangish yellow, which means the tool is like, this is a little more difficult than we think you should rank for. When it's a really solid keyword, like when it's in the single digits, it'll be green. And then if it's above 50, it'll turn red. So it uses colors for this word for this number to give you an indication as to things that as to how strong that keyword is difficulty wise. Another thing I love to look at, again, okay, I did say we were going to come back to PPC and CPC. PPC competition score stands for pay per click. So that is how many people are, not how many people, but it's an estimation of how many people are out there using this word in their advertisements, in their Google ads. CPC is cost per click. So if you do decide that you want to go ahead and use this in your Google ad, you'll be paying an average of 47 cents per click. That's when people click through to your website. If people see your ad and they don't click, you don't pay for that. If they click through and don't buy anything, you still have to pay for that. So that's pretty good, actually. That's a nice low CPC, nice low PPC competition score. Yeah, this is a surprisingly good keyword. So the 47 cents per click is an average. You can bid higher than that, which will put you up in the ranking. So you know how sometimes, depending on the keyword, you'll have like 3 or 4 different ads at the top. If you bid more than anyone else is bidding, you'll be at the top. If everyone else is bidding, I don't know, 48 cents or 46 cents and you bid 47, you'll be right in the middle. And if you bid 40 cents, you'll be down at the bottom. Not necessarily the bottom of the page. You'll still rank above all those organic rankings, but that's how that works in terms of CPC and PPC. That's what that means. But the next thing I like to look at is the organic keywords. So cooking classes near me. This is why it's so important if you have location-based, either a store or an office where people are looking to see where you are physically located, having this in the content on your website, having your Google My Business profile set up with a location. That's where this will help you out. You don't actually need to use the cooking classes near me as a keyword. You can just use cooking classes because Google will figure out the rest. Assuming you have all your ducks in a row as far as telling Google where you're located. But then you've got cooking classes, you've got cooking class singular, and sometimes there is a difference. Even if you just change 1 or 2 letters, it can make a big difference. Cook classes, cooking classes, etc. And then over here, again, paid keywords, cooking classes at Sur La Table, cooking classes. Sometimes if you switch stuff around, it does make a difference as far as the data on the keywords. So that is it. Oh, and then you can see competitors in organic search. I always check competitors in organic search to make sure that it is something that is actually relevant. Trying to think of a good example of something I've done, but I've definitely, so we've got cooking classes, right? So these are all like, again, Sur La Table, TripAdvisor makes sense if you're traveling and you want to check out cooking classes where you're traveling to. Williams-Sonoma is another popular one. So if you're thinking of offering cooking classes or something to go along with cooking classes, then you know you're on the right track because people who are offering those things are ranking for it. This can also give you a good idea of how competitive it can be to rank for a keyword, even if the competition or the keyword difficulty score up here is not that high. Just having that information, the competitors in the organic search, if you know that you're competing with someone like TripAdvisor or Yelp or Groupon, right? Those rank pretty highly. You're going to have a hard time beating those for ranking. So that is another thing to keep in mind. And then competitors and ads, again, tends to be a lot of the same people. TripAdvisor, Airbnb, Sur La Table is in there too. So
that gives you some great insight as to where you could cross promote or where some additional audiences are, though, because I would not have thought of travel sites. And if there's that much competition, it's also telling you you're onto something people are buying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's excellent.
Yeah. So any questions at this point? All right, moving right along. This is another one of my favorite tools, is Answer the Public. So let's say cooking classes is something you offer and you want to find out what people are looking for, what other questions people are using, are asking using that particular keyword. You can go here, and it does take a while to generate, but what it does, it will generate for you all of the questions that people ask across the internet using this particular keyword. And actually something that's new that they didn't have before is you can vary this by location. So, you know, we're here in the US, so we want to know who's looking for cooking classes in the US and in English, but maybe we want to do it in Espanol instead. So that's also something that's really good to know. And this has a search value of 74,000. I would believe SERPstat over as far as data. Again, this is all new. They didn't used to have these over at Answer the Public. This is something Neil Patel added since he bought the tool. But you can see, oh, it's all in visualization. It shows up like this giant wheel, which looks really cool, but is hard to actually read. You just go over here from visualization and click data. And now you can actually read it, and you can see it's broken up by the different prepositions are, can, how, where, when, what, who, why, which, will. Yeah, start my, so this is a paid tool, so you're not gonna see data for all of these until you start a free trial or go ahead and pay. I don't use I don't pay for Answer the Public. I just use it for inspiration. If I know, let's say I want to start a cooking class, maybe I want to write blogging about a cooking class. What questions are people asking about cooking classes that I can write a blog post about? So here's a good one. How can cooking classes help students? Right? So there you go. That's your blog post topic. I do always take it back to SERPstat just because I did a lot of research on my keyword research tools before investing in one. And SERPstat has the most accurate results as far as especially volume and keyword difficulty. So there are a lot of tools out there, but you're going to get different numbers based on which tools you use. So for example, I mean, this has a search difficulty of 55, according to Neil Patel. That's really high. The cost per click is what, quadruple, more than quadruple, what it says over here. So different answers based on different tools, but that's why I did my research before investing in SERPstat. That's why I recommend SERPstat to everyone. There are a bunch of other tools if you decide that you want to use something else. Neil Patel over here does have his own keyword research tool called Ubersuggest. That's a really popular one. Moz, SEMrush is also really popular. That's another one that I looked at before investing in SERPstat, but again, found that the data it was providing was just not as accurate. So that is, any questions on this?
Is there a free version of SERPstat or
I
only
don't
paid?
think there is a free
Okay.
version of SERPstat. No. Ubersuggest, I think, does have a free version. I think it lets you get up to 3 searches per day, I think, as of this recording, which for those of you watching the recording is March 16th, 2023. So yeah, there are some, and I think SEMrush also gave me like a 1-week free trial. I can't remember if SERPstat did, but yeah, most of them give you a free trial of like a week. So you can check it out, see if it's worthwhile for you to invest in, if it's something you're actually going to use. All right, next up, I don't have a tool for this. I can just stop sharing for right now because I do want to talk about the different types of keywords. So for example, how can cooking classes help students? That is an informational keyword, which means people are looking for information, right? So that's going to be your blog posts, pure and simple. You've got I forgot to say something about doing your keyword research. So I said most of the time you have a balance between volume and keyword difficulty, right? One of the things that can affect that balance is a long tail keyword. So you've got the short cooking classes, that's only 2 words, right? Usually stuff that's 1 to 2 words usually do have a ton of searches, but are also usually really difficult to rank for. So what you can do to mitigate that is get those really long tail keywords, which are like 4 or 5 words long. That's when people are looking for something really specific. So for example, I was talking to someone who said they used to get a bunch of traffic to their website and then they redid their website and now they're not getting as much traffic. So we were talking about some of the different issues they might be facing and what might be causing that. But she said one of the keywords they used to rank really well for was Chicago divorce financial planner, right? That's 4 words. That is very specific. That is someone in a specific situation looking for someone who can help them with that specific situation. So of course that would be really easy to rank for and actually get traffic from and get conversions from, because that is something that is, again, later in the buyer journey. They already know they need this thing. They know what they need. They're just trying to figure out where to find what they need. So if you're trying, again, look at your related keywords. If you research something like cooking classes and you don't get the data that you want, maybe there's not enough searches, maybe there's a ton of searches, but the SEO difficulty, the keyword difficulty is too high. One of the ways you can mitigate that is, again, look at your related keywords, see if there's something in there that has better data, but add to it. So again, how can cooking classes help students, right? That would be a really long keyword. Maybe you could put that in there and you would get either better results or worse results. Again, a long tail keyword, because they're looking for something specific, tends to get fewer searches, but it also tends to be much less competitive. So again, there's that balance between search volume and keyword difficulty. Okay. Now I can move on to the different types of keywords and why they matter. So you've got, like I said, those are your informational keywords, right? Then you've got your navigational keywords. That is when someone, like if I'm looking for Amazon, for example, right? I know what I'm looking for. Maybe I don't have it bookmarked. Maybe I can't be bothered to put it into the browser. I'm just going to put into Google Amazon, right? Actually, I did that this morning with, because I still haven't bookmarked it, StreamYard. Every week I go live on LinkedIn. I do a Google search for StreamYard, even though I have an account that I've registered for and everything. And instead of just bookmarking it, right, I just search for StreamYard and it pulls up. That's a navigational keyword, right? That is, I am looking for this specific thing. Just send me to this specific thing. That is usually not something you have to worry about unless you're a big brand. That is one of the benefits of having a brand name and a URL that is really easy to remember, like the Detail Diva over here, right? Or the Detail Conductor. That is something that is really easy to remember. And I can go, I can't remember the name of her website, but I know this is the name of her company. I can type this in here and hopefully it will take me to her website. So that's a navigational keyword. And then we've got people who are ready to buy. So that's when you get into the commercial keywords or the transactional keywords. Commercial keywords are searchers who are looking to investigate specific certain brands or types of services. So those are things like, the cheapest or the best sneakers or longest lasting snow boots. I have a thing with shoes that don't last very long because my dog walks me all over town. So I am constantly looking for durable shoes. So that is something that would be a commercial keyword or a transactional keyword because I'm looking for something and I'm ready to buy. So that is something you always want to consider when you are looking to, when you're doing your keyword research, is try and figure out where in the buyer journey people are when people are searching that particular keyword. I always do that by doing a quick Google search using that keyword, right? I go in and search Google and go, okay, what comes up with this keyword? Is it an ad? Sometimes, Google has that carousel across the top. If that comes up, that's how you know that's a commercial keyword, right? People are looking for the best XYZ or the cheapest such and such. So that is absolutely something to keep in mind. Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have a question about that?
I have a question that's sort of more general question, which is, if I have a client or even I guess if I'm thinking about myself, my own business, what are some good questions to ask to get the keywords out of someone to know what we should be looking for?
Yeah, I always ask, actually, I always start with their products and services. So for me, for example, I go to Answer the Public and look up things about blogging and SEO services and blog writing tips. That's always a really good starting point. And then you can get deeper into the weeds with that, like blogging for lawyers or blogging for financial planners. Those tend to be really good keywords because, again, you're getting more specific. So definitely ask those questions. Obviously, you should know about their products and services, but you should also ask, who is it that they're looking to serve specifically? So get a really good idea of who their ideal client is. Yes, Rhonda.
Would you suggest an even mix of the types of keywords for each person? Would that help discoverability, or does it just really depend on their product or service?
Absolutely use a mix of keywords, but when it comes to types of keywords, just make sure you're using them in the right places. So you don't want a transactional keyword in a blog post because you're not trying to get people to buy from you in that blog post. You're just providing information positioning yourself as an expert. Just like you don't want that informational stuff in your sales page because people aren't looking for that stuff. They're not looking to buy when they're doing those searches. They're looking for information. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. But for the sake of strategy, starting out at the very beginning, you would want to like think through a mix of all of those so you have some to plug in.
Yes, but also know which keyword falls in which category.
Sure.
You can and should create what's called a keyword map, which is where you map out the keywords that are going to go on the different pages of your website.
Well, and that was going to be my other question. I'm maybe skipping ahead, so tell me if you're going to cover it. What's the strategy then for making sure that you're not cannibalizing your own keywords on your pages?
Yeah, that is a really good question, which I had not actually, I have covered that before. I had not planned to cover that here. So, yeah, definitely keep a list of what you've already covered. This can be tricky, especially with blog posts. If you keep writing different blog posts and you're covering similar topics, you do want to make sure you're not using the certain keywords over and over again, because you can end up competing with yourself. And yeah, that's called keyword cannibalization, where you have multiple pages on your website that are ranking for the same keyword. Google will just, you'll usually both pages will get downgraded in the search results. Because again, you're kind of spreading that out. Whereas if you just focus that keyword, that target keyword on that one, you'd have better search results. I would say you're okay. Again, those keywords like content marketing and blogging are all over my website because that's the core of what I do. Those are also really difficult to rank for because there's a lot of people out there talking about content marketing and blogging. So I don't worry about cannibalizing that keyword. But when I talk about something like, the latest, that's not a good example. Content distribution is one that I talked about not too long ago, right, on my blog. So that's a good example of something that is related to content marketing and SEO that I wanted to help people with. So I had one blog post about content distribution. I'm not going to have another blog post about content distribution because that would be fighting for that one keyword, and that's just frustrating. So that's not going to get you anywhere. Does that answer your question, Rhonda?
Yes and no. So the people that have just tons and tons and tons of blog articles about similar topics, obviously, because that's what they do, they're just ranking organically then because of the volume, not so much that they're competing against each other.
Yes.
Or mid pages.
Yeah, the amount of content as well as the quality of content you have across your website and on each page and each blog post matters. So if Google sees that you have a ton of content about blogging or about SEO, it's going to go, okay, this whole website is about blogging. This whole website is about SEO. But you don't want your whole blog post to be about, like I said, blogging for beginners or, content distribution. Does that make sense? All right. I'm going to assume that we're good and I'm going to move on. I'm going to share my screen again because I want to talk about where you put these keywords. Obviously put it throughout your content. So I use, I'm going to ask for a thumbs up again. Can people see my screen? Is that, yes. Okay. Yes. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. A lot of people love Yoast. This is WordPress. My site is on WordPress. A lot of people love Yoast. I don't like it for a number of reasons. One of the things about Yoast is that it tends to encourage keyword stuffing. It will tell you that you don't have your keyword in there enough times. Keyword stuffing is when you have your keyword just throughout your content as many times as you possibly can. Like if I write of something about blogging and blogging is my keyword, and I can talk about the benefits of blogging and why you should be blogging and how people who are blogging because blogging is the best, right? No one actually wants to read that content. That kind of keyword stuffing did work like 15, 20 years ago in the early days of SEO. And then Google got wise and was like, no, we don't want this anymore. So now you can actually get punished and downgraded for that kind of keyword stuffing. And Yoast does tend to encourage people to put their keyword all over their content, and that can backfire. Yes, you want it throughout your content, but do so in a way that it's natural. And again, this is why you can go back to your related keywords. So you've got cooking classes, you've got cooking classes near me, you've got cooking class singular versus plural, right? You can pull on those related keywords and sprinkle those throughout your content so that you're not just talking about, you're not using one keyword over and over and over again. So I also want to talk about where to put the keyword, because that's super important. So this is the heading. By the way, instead of Yoast, I use AIO SEO. All-in-one is what the AIO stands for. All-in-one SEO. This is my SEO plugin that I like. It lets you, put a meta description, which we can talk about later. Focus key phrase. I love this because I will often start to write a blog post and be like, what was my focus key phrase? So I can say, blogging is not about you is my focus key phrase. And then when I come back, then it generates for me. Well, it is in the SEO title, so I get a little green check mark for that, but it's not in the meta description because I haven't written a meta description yet. So I get a little red X for that. Focus key phrase length. It is a little long, but again, I like the longer keywords. It's in the URL. I'll talk about that in a minute. Make sure it's in the introduction and the subheadings, which I will get to right now. So first, it's in the title, right? This is your H1 tag, which it's not going to let me show, which is fine. So this, if I can show you, for those of you with a WordPress site, right? It automatically shows up like this, add title, and you put the title in here, and it takes care of the H1 tag for you. That's part of what Google reads to go, what is this content all about? As well as obviously real life people who want to know what your content is all about. So you can add the HTML in there with the H1 tag. WordPress takes care of it for you. So let's say blogging is not about you is your target keyword. That's it. Now it's in your headline. I do usually recommend headlines that are longer than this and involve an emotional component. This would be, assuming this is my keyword, it's just the keyword. I would never have a title, especially not a blog post. Service pages, yeah, service page can be just the keyword. But the headline of a blog post, that's always going to be longer. Now your subheadings. So again, WordPress makes this really easy for you. So let's go up here as an example. This is a paragraph, right? You can go up here to this little paragraph and say, actually, I want this to be a heading. And now it's a headline, and it's an H2 tag. Your H1 tag is always your title. So your first subheading is going to be an H2 tag. So maybe we want this to be a subheading of this. Maybe we're going to have some filler content here, and then a subheading of our first subheading. Yeah, we're going to make this an H3, and it's going to be a little bit smaller, and that can be, that's already H4. How about that? So you can go all the way to H6. If you don't have WordPress, if you're doing this yourself with HTML, it's really not that hard. You edit as HTML, and all you need is that little sideways hat, H2, other sideways hat right before your title. And then you do the same thing and add a slash at the end. That's it. That's all it is. That's HTML. And you can go back to edit visually, but I love WordPress because it does it for you automatically. Having those tags, having the keyword in those tags, Google, just like real people, Google scans those subheadings, your title, your URL, looks at all of those things first to get an idea of what your content is all about. So make sure your keyword is in those places, because that is super important for making sure that you're in the right place. All right, and then we go over to our post. Again, Google does this for you automatically with the URL. It puts this in. But if I wanted to change the URL and say, I don't know, maybe my target keyword is just blogging, which again, I would never do, but we're playing pretend here. So now that's my URL for this, is just blog. It's just my target keyword. It's short and sweet, demonstrates the point, demonstrates what the content is all about. Although again, blogging is a really broad category. So that would be a very long blog post or long series of blog posts, but as an example, you get the idea. Meta description is a little dicey right now. So the idea behind a meta description is, see if I can add another. The idea behind the meta description is when you search something in Google, that headline pops up, right? Blogging is not about you. And then let's turn this back into a paragraph. All right, see, then this is your meta description. It's what shows up in Google underneath the headline before anyone clicks through to your website. So we've all been there where we go search something on Google, we see the headline, okay, that's good, but we want to get a little more information about the information that's on, or the content that's on that web page. You're going to look at that meta description. You're going to look at what pops up underneath the headline. That's what your meta description is. So normally you take care of this yourself, because if you don't, Google will grab content pretty randomly from your page and put that up as your meta description. There has been talk lately that Google is doing that anyway, because Google thinks that it's better at identifying what specific content people are looking for when they search for something. And sometimes Google gets it right, and other times not so much. So that's a little dicey. But for now, at least, I do always recommend getting that meta description in there. Again, WordPress does this for you automatically. You go over to this side on the right-hand side of the screen, you go to post, you go to excerpt. Excerpt is your meta description. Make sure your keyword is in here and you're explaining what people can expect when they click through to this page. Right? You want it about that length. You don't want it much longer. Post excerpt is the meta description. So back here to the SEO tool, AIO SEO that I use, it has post excerpt as the meta description. So now it's not going to yell at me for not having meta description. But if I put the keyword in here, all right, focus key phrase in meta description. I went from a red X there to a green check mark. Yay me. All right. Does that make sense? Any questions at this point? All right. Well, that's all I have for you guys. It's been about 40 minutes. So thanks so much for attending the webinar. I'm so glad you all could make it. I hope you got something out of it.
No, great information, Allison. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
This was really helpful. Thank you.